What's up guys, Kyle here again, and today we're gonna go over my favorite pieces of gear that I reviewed in 2021. Let's do it! Alright, hope you guys are doing great out there today. If this is your first time here at my channel, my name is Kyle, and what I do is I take awesome high gain amplifiers, overdrives, guitars, cabinets, speakers and pickups. I record them with a simple SM57 setup, and I give you guys the unprocessed audio on your end. So if that seems like something that you're into, consider subscribing to the channel, hitting that bell notification so you don't miss any of my future uploads. Thanks! Alright guys, so in true belligerent amateur fashion, I pretty much murdered that intro, but we are gonna press on because my first year on YouTube is officially over. But something I thought that would be fun to do, since that was my first full year of YouTube, is go back and review some of my favorite pieces of gear and my favorite reviews of 2021 that I had the opportunity to do for you guys. Now, some of these aren't necessarily my favorite pieces of gear, so I chose all of these items based on, number one, how much I liked the piece of gear that I was reviewing, number two, the history or the story behind that review. Some of the items on the list have a cool story behind them, and I kind of wanted to share that with you guys and let you guys kind of inside the process of how this whole YouTube thing works. So there was no particular criteria on what I picked, like I didn't need a certain number of this or that. I just kind of went through all my videos from last year and picked out all my favorite pieces of gear. I narrowed it down to 10, and I'm gonna give you 10 in no particular order. There's no 10 through 1. There's no absolute favorite piece of gear. I'm just gonna kind of share with you guys the things that really stuck out to me. So number one on the list of my favorite items that I reviewed in 2021 is the Mezzabarba M0 Overdrive amplifier. So a lot of you guys know that the M0 Overdrive has become one of my favorite amps on the planet. I like to kind of describe it as a Marshall Dono. It's a very close cousin in schematic and build to an SLO 100, a Soldano SLO. But some tweaks have been added by Pierangelo Mezzabarba in order to make the amp kind of less smooth, more angry, a little tighter in the low end, and give it that kind of Marshall, really angry, pissed off sounding upper mid-range. And honestly, as much as I love the SLO 100, as much as that is kind of the granddaddy of a lot of the high gain amps that we know and love today, as soon as I got that M0, I was like, man, this is everything that I kind of wanted the SLO 100 to be. The M0 really just has that nasty mid-range that I've kind of become used to playing my Splons and my Marshalls. Those are amps that you guys know that I absolutely love, especially for the thrash thing that I do with Bushido code. And the M0 really has the tone, the sparkle, the gain structure, the depth of the SLO 100, but it also has that mid-range, which I always felt the SLO 100 was lacking. The SLO always felt a little too smooth for me in the upper frequencies. And I really feel that the M0 Overdrive kind of remedied all that. And cool story behind that is I actually had the Skill 30 and demoed the Skill 30 on my channel before I had ever reached out to Mezzabarba or they had reached out to me. When I first got the Skill 30, it did not come with the foot switch, and I actually had to message Mezzabarba, and JP and Pierangelo messaged me back in regards to the foot switch, but Pierangelo also said that he had been following my channel, and granted, this was like 1,000 subscribers in when I messaged him, maybe not even that. And he told me that he had been following my channel and he watched all of my videos and he really, really enjoyed them. So that was a really cool moment for me to see somebody who is actually in the industry, somebody who runs one of these companies, was already paying attention to the channel. So that was kind of a big moment for me, kind of realizing like, okay, maybe the channel has a little bit more reach than I thought it did. And it was just kind of a humbling moment, and I really thought that that was super cool, and a lot of people don't know that. So that's basically how I got hooked up with Mezzabarba in the first place. I did the Skill 30 demo. I ended up talking to a buddy of mine, Chris, out in California. He recommended that I try one of the larger heads and put me in touch with JP, who is kind of the head of the US distribution side of the company. And the rest is history. They sent me the two amps that you see behind me to demo, and I liked them both so much that I decided to purchase them off of Mezzabarba, and you guys have heard me sing their praises. You guys will see more videos of both of those amps coming up this year, because I'm going to shoot it out with stuff like the SLO 100, as that has been a heavily requested video on my channel. But yeah, that is number one on the list for the reasons mentioned. Number two on the list is the Marshall DSL-20. If you guys have been following my channel for a long time, you will know that I am a huge fan of the Marshall JCM 2000 series, whether it be the TSL or the DSL. I love both of those amps. And I am also a fan of the DSL 100H that Marshall released a few years ago. Now, of course, they took that amp, kind of turned it into like a budget offering, moved manufacturing over to Vietnam, I believe is where those were made, or Indonesia, something like that. But even so, I really enjoyed that amp. I enjoyed the addition of a resonance knob in place of the deep switch. So they kind of took all of those things and shrunk them down into a 20-watt head, and they gave it full-size power tubes, which you guys know, I'm not a huge fan of the EL84 power tube, lunchbox size amps. They just don't really have any sort of headroom whatsoever, and they tend to just fart and fall apart as soon as you try to get them to band volumes. So the DSL20 has all of the tone of the bigger DSL amps. Of all the amps in the 20-watt or less category, the DSL absolutely takes the cake for me as my favorite. I think the tones in that thing are incredible. It's got a good amount of headroom, and overall, man, I really enjoy that, and I find myself recommending it to people a lot for the 20-watt or less type category. So really love that amp, really enjoyed the demo, and you guys seem to like it too. Number 3 on the list is the Moore Brown Sound 3 preamp pedal. This preamp pedal truly surprised the hell out of me. I had heard a lot of really good things about the Moore preamp pedals. There is a whole lineup of awesome high gain preamp emulations from Moore, and of course the Brown Sound stuff is going to be one of the first ones that I'm going to gravitate towards, being a massive 5150 fan. 100% honesty, I can see that pedal being on a pedal board fly rig type deal, and I don't have somebody there that's gonna be able to lend me an amp that I know well. I'm absolutely going to stick that thing on a pedal board with my Seymour Duncan Power Stage 200 and my Deadweld Audio Golem noise gate, and I will be happy as a pig in shit with the tones that I get out of that pedal board fly rig, because the Moore Brown Sound really, it does a good job of emulating the 5153 sound, but in reality, it's gonna sound different, obviously, but the sound that comes out of it is really incredible. Now, I've tried other preamp pedals, especially like mini ones, and they are just kind of not, they're more of a toy to me, but this pedal, realistically, I could see myself using as an actual preamp pedal on a fly rig board, and I thought that it got phenomenal tones. Somebody who's kind of like a hardcore tube amp addict like myself, feeling comfortable enough to use something like that in an actual live scenario and feel like I'm getting a good tone that's not gonna take away from how I'm playing, distracting me with things not sounding right. I don't know, man. It was pretty cool, and it was an eye-opening experience for me. And again, you guys seem to resonate with that video quite a lot. You thought that the tone sounded as good as I did, so that was a fun one for me to do for sure. All right, number 4 on the list is the Quad Cortex. Yes, the tube amp guy really loved demoing a piece of modeling gear, and here is why. It has nothing to do with the built-in models that are sent. It has nothing to do with the built-in impulses that are sent stock from the unit. The reason that I love the Quad Cortex so much is the capture function. I think that the capture function on that piece of gear is phenomenal. Now, is it 100%? Is it literally so close that I would never be able to tell the difference? In some cases, yes. In some cases, no. It really kind of depends on the amp. I found that certain amps react to the algorithm that goes through the amp in order to capture it differently. Some of them are really accurate, some of them not so much. But the ones that are really accurate are amps that just so happen to be really important to me, such as my M0 Overdrive, my Splon 6550 came out great, my 1978 JMP 2203 with the Legendary Tones hot mod installed came out awesome. In fact, when I plug into my Quad Cortex, that's one of the first things I go for. But not only that, you can capture your pedals as well. So, of course, I went ahead and captured my favorite boost, my Deadweld Duality DX, on the green channel and on the blue channel, exactly how I would set it up. And now I have literally my rig in a pedal-sized, piece of gear that I can slap on a padded pedal board and take with me wherever I go. And my rig is in there. My rig is completely in there. Not only that, but I can throw in something like an EQ in the front or an EQ after the amplifier, just to fine tune things depending on whatever cab or whatever I'm playing through, whatever guitar I have at the time. Not only that, but there's a built-in tuner that's extremely accurate. There are built-in gates that I can employ wherever I want my signal chain. And I realize that a lot of other modelers have this, but what the Quad Cortex has over those is it is my stuff. It is literally my stuff that I modeled myself. I EQ'd it the way that I wanted, with the feel that I wanted, with the amount of gain that I wanted. And when I plug into it, it feels like home. It doesn't feel like I'm playing somebody else's approximation of the amps that I own. No, I am playing my amps the way that I dialed them in. And to me, that is invaluable. If I am using a piece of modeling gear, knowing that it's my own gear that has been modeled the way that I want it to sound, I know that I'm going to be able to get the tones that I want to out of it. So I can throw that on a pedal board with the Duncan Power Stage 200, and there's my fly rig, and I have pretty much my whole library of amps at my fingertips. So to me, really, really cool function, and I really enjoyed playing with that thing. That's what she said. Number 5 on the list, the SLT Tones Lassa Lammer Signature plugin. This plugin, what can I say about it? It's just incredible. It's just every aspect of this plugin is absolutely awesome. Everything is so easy to use, and most importantly, I found the tones that I got out of each amp sounded not only as I would expect them to sound, as I own 2 of those 3 amps, a JCM 800 with a hot mod installed and a Dietzel Herbert, but I found the options, there's so many options, and yet it was still easy to dial in. Now with a lot of plugins, when you have too many options, it just makes it too difficult to dial in a sound. I feel like you spend more time tweaking than you should, at least in my experience. But with the Lassa Lammer plugin, it was just really easy to get to the tone that I was trying to get to quickly. And not only that, but that tone sounded really, really good. Now, as somebody who actually owns a Dietzel Herbert, that amp, there are tricks to dialing it in, and those tricks were as accurate as could be on the plugin itself versus the real amp. And I found that really cool, and that just led me to believe that, you know, of course I would think that Lassa would know exactly what he was doing as far as capturing those amps and making sure that you get the little nuances out of them. And I really feel like I was correct in that, because the amps react exactly as I would think them to with certain EQ settings and everything. So not only that, but when I first got into the amp world, when I was really trying to figure out what was what, there's so many amps that not only were just hard to locate, but completely out of my price range at the time. And I would go on YouTube, and it was either him or Ola that were the guys that had videos on those amps, and he would also explain to you the differences in the amps. He would shoot out things like Bogner Uberschalls and Dietzel Herberts or Dietzel VH4s, or, you know, you name it. He had pretty much every amp that mattered on his channel at one point or another. So for him to actually reach out to me, ask me to check that out, you know, huge honor. Thank you again to Lassa for asking me to do that. It was my honor to be able to work with you in any sort of fashion. So thanks, man. And just another kind of instance where I could see that people were paying attention to the channel, who I respect and who matter to me. And it was just a cool moment to be offered that opportunity. Number 6 on the list, the legendary Tones Hot Mod. This thing has completely revolutionized the stock Marshall for me. Whether it be the JMP, the JCM 800, or even some of the 900 models and beyond, because the thing works in a Friedman runt, for God's sakes. This little plug and play piece of gear can save you so much heartache, so much trouble, so much money, because if you have a JMP 2203, 2204, if you have a JCM 800, 2203 or 2204, they don't have a lot of gain on tap. They really don't. Even if you hit them with a hot boost, most boosts are not hot enough, and pickup combinations to really get those things cooking for like the modern saturation levels that a lot of us crave, that a lot of you guys watch my channel are going after. I know myself, I found myself pretty disappointed with JCM 800s in that regard. Not that they're a bad sounding amp, they are one of the best sounding amps on the planet, but they just can never quite get as saturated and as brutal as I would like them to be on their own. Enter the hot mod, plug that thing into the V2 of your 2203, flip that gain switch up, hit it with a boost out front, and you've got tight, saturated Marshall 2203 tones, but they retain the 2203 voicing. And if you want to sell your amp, you can just pull that thing out of there, or you can sell it with it as an added bonus. And to have that, there are so many guys out there who want modded Marshall tones, but don't want to pay the boutique prices of something that's already been modded by a Friedman, by a Gower, by a Fortin, or they have a stock pristine 2203 or 2204, and as much as they would like to get the high gain tones out of it, they don't want to mod it, because those things at this point are fetching crazy money. They're going to be they already are collector's pieces that are only going to rise in value. So with the hot mod, you can literally plug and play that piece of gear get what you want out of it, get those saturated JCM 800 tones that you always thought were possible but didn't realize that there was some studio magic going on a lot of the records, or some modifications going on with those amps that people didn't necessarily tell you about in order to achieve those types of tones. Well, now you can get them just by plugging that thing in, and I think that David has really created a piece of gear that's going to change the Marshall lower gain circuits for a lot of people forever. So it's really one of my favorite pieces of gear on the market. And on top of that, David is like one of the nicest people on earth. He's one of the nicest people that I've met. He has some of the best customer service that you could absolutely imagine, and he has been a good friend to me. Ever since I started this channel, he actually reached out and offered to update the hot mod that I purchased used. I didn't even purchase it from him. I purchased it used, and he still offered to update it for me for free. And that's pretty much how our relationship started. And I just talked to the man yesterday, and we're gonna do a giveaway for you guys here in the very near future. I got something really cool to give away to you guys. So David has been not only an asset to me as somebody who has helped me out with the channel, but he's been a great friend too, and he is an awesome person to do business with. So that is one of the reasons why the Legendary Tones Hot Mod is at the top of my list of things that I reviewed last year. Now I know there is no particular order, but the Hot Mod would be very high on the list for me. So thank you, David. You have created an awesome piece of gear, and I am very fortunate to know you, man. Number 7 on the list, the Deadweld Duality DX. Now I'm sure all that you guys knew that this thing was gonna be on the list for sure. I actually had to go back and see when I demoed that thing, because for some reason I was thinking it was even earlier, but I think I demoed it in January of 2021. And from the moment that I plugged that thing in and got it dialed in, got the gate set correctly, that was my favorite boost. It was over, because not only is the functionality on that thing absolutely incredible, there's so much functionality. You've got 2 different dedicated channels on the pedal, each with their own set of controls. You've got a green modded Tube Screamer side, you've got a blue TC integrated preamp side. Each channel has its own excellent noise gate in it, that when I took on tour with Bushido Code, that was the only pedal on my board other than a tuner. I did not need an external gate to gate my splawn. I just had the green channel on, the gate set exactly where I needed it to. I didn't have to touch that thing all tour. It's just such an accurate gate. It's such a good sounding boost, and it's all in one pedal. It saves you so much real estate on your board. And on top of all that, you can combine, you can stack those channels, the green and blue, on a secret red channel by holding both of the switches in, and you can still control each channel individually, or the EQ controls of each channel, to really fine tune that red channel, and you can boost the hell out of something like a dual rectifier or even a Marshall JCM 800, and really take those things into modern territory, because they will tighten up the lows like crazy. They will add a ton of modern mid content, and they will add a ton of output and gain to whatever you are boosting. And that red channel also has a gate that you can control with the same gate that the green channel controls. I'm gonna say control a few more times, but you guys get the picture of what I'm talking about. So yeah, just the amount of functionality that's in that pedal for one single pedal, it takes up very little real estate. You can even run it in a 4-cable method and utilize the gate in more ways than one. So on top of that, Daniel is an absolutely stand-up person. He has also been a great friend of mine. I bought that pedal with my own money. Daniel didn't have any idea who I was at the time, because I was still a small YouTuber, and I made the demo, and he was super happy with it, and it's just been a great relationship ever since. So Daniel, you have also been a great asset to the channel and a great friend, so thank you so much for everything that you've done for me. And yeah, that is my favorite boost pedal on the planet, and if you guys don't have one, you should probably find one. Okay guys, number 8 on my list is the Balaguer Espada Select. This is the all black, beautiful Balaguer guitar that I bought. Joe had actually been one of the first people to reach out to me and work with me on reviewing a piece of gear. He sent me the Balaguer Fish and Drive V2 to check out, and instantly, from the first time that we chatted, we became friends, and I still talk to him pretty much daily. And he has helped me out so much with this channel. He's probably been the single most helpful person to me, not only from the standpoint of like getting me hooked up with other people in the business, but also just as a genuinely good person, as a friend. He has offered me a ton of advice. He has given me a ton of encouragement with the channel. So at the time, I had never played a Balaguer guitar. I had always wanted to check one out. I had seen Fluff's videos, a couple years back, and thought that they looked really, really cool, but I just had never gotten the chance to play one. So I figured, you know what? I am going to find a guitar, a Balaguer guitar, and do a review for it, buy it with my own money. I'm not gonna tell Joe because I want it to be kind of a surprise to him and as kind of like a thank you and a shout out for all the nice things that he has done for me. So I found the guitar at an online dealer, I purchased it, I made the video. The main takeaway from all of that was I fell in love with that guitar. That thing absolutely blew me away. I'm staring at it because it's just such a beautiful piece of gear. It's sitting right over here. And man, every time I look at that thing, every time I see it in the playback of a video, I'm so happy I bought it. And every time I pick it up, I'm just amazed at what a quality piece of gear that is. The stock pickups in it sound incredible. For a $1,000 guitar with stainless steel frets, locking tuners, quality hardware, you've got awesome pickups in it. It's ebony fretboard. I mean, you get a really nice gig bag with the guitar. It's just a guitar that I really truly loved right out of the box. I did not have to adjust the neck. I did not have to intonate it. And to this day, it's been an absolutely rock solid guitar for me. You guys still see it on my demos all the time. And it was so nice to not only be able to pay somebody back who I respected and who had helped me out quite a bit, but it also turned out to be one of my favorite guitars that I owned and really just kind of set me on the path of trying to locate or get more guitars from Joe, which I'm currently working on. So yeah, that guitar has, you know, kind of a special place on my channel, special place for me personally, and it was one of my favorite pieces of gear to check out this year. Number 9, the 5150 Iconic. The amp that everybody loves to hate. I was really excited for this piece of gear when it got announced because I'm a massive 5150 fan, and usually anything with a 5150 logo on it is going to be something that I'm going to be interested in. And when I knew that James Brown was gonna have a hand in creating and designing the circuit for the 5150 Iconic, I knew that even regardless, you know, when the amp was announced, there's only 2 preamp tubes. I didn't care. I really didn't. And I knew that it was, and when it was initially announced, I mean, it was put out there as a budget offering in the 5150 lineup, and that's okay by me because you guys know that I am a proponent of tone does not equal price, price does not equal tone. I will always give anything its fair shot, and if I like it, I like it. If I don't, I don't. So when I see a company like EVH and EVH Gear, 5150, whatever, release a budget piece of gear, I'm still gonna be excited for it because I know that it's still gonna have Eddie's sign off on it, which this piece of gear absolutely did. Eddie was involved in the process of designing this amp before he passed away. And with James Brown's hands on it, I mean, has James Brown ever made anything that sounded bad, especially with a 5150 logo on it? No, he has not in my book. I was super excited to get that amp in, and as soon as I got it in, as soon as I unboxed it and plugged it in, I was more than happy with what was coming out of the speakers. I really enjoyed the amp. I felt that it was a little different. It was different enough from the other amps to warrant me owning it on top of owning all the other 5150 variants that I own. But yet it was still very much a 5150. The gain structure still is 5150. The feel under the hands is still very fluid. It's an easy to play amp, especially on the red channel. And overall, it just did not disappoint me in any way. I really found that it's an awesome sounding amplifier. I enjoyed the demos that I got to do with it. And even though it's kind of become the amp that everybody loves to hate, I don't care. Like, I love it regardless of what anyone says. I don't care about anybody else's opinion but my own when it comes to the way that I feel about a piece of guitar gear. And I feel that that thing is awesome. It lived up to every expectation that I could have had for it, and therefore it made the list easily for me. And the last piece of gear chosen for this list is probably one that I would put at number 1, and that is the PV6505-2. And the reason that I would put that at number 1 is because I have been a PV player since I have been a guitar player. I had a little PV practice amp back in the day. My first Strat guitar ever was a PV Predator, and my first real, true high gain amp that I fell in love with was a PV6505. Now that dates all the way back to 2010, and the 5150-6505 sound has been pretty much a mainstay in my stable, and the 5150-6505 series are just something that I always have around because it's one of my ideal tones. So when John from PV reached out to me and said, hey man, we've got a new 6505 refresh coming, I would love for you to demo it for us, I was pretty blown away because, I mean, PV is no small company in this industry. So for John to reach out to me and not only basically leak the information to me and allow me to be the kind of the first one to really announce to the public that PV was going to have something new coming, but for them to send me the amp and allow me to be the first person to show it to you guys is seriously such an honor, such a humbling and honestly kind of mind-blowing experience, especially because I'm still so fresh in this YouTube thing. In my mind, I'm still a nobody, and I'll probably always feel that way, but for them to not only recognize me, but to send them a crucial piece of gear in one of their new lineups and be the very first person to show it to you guys and trust it in my hands, that was just a huge moment for me. And I still, when I think about it, I'm just kind of blown away that it happened, but I'm super pumped because it was a super cool moment for me. And not only that, the amp turned out to sound great. It sounds just different enough from a 6505 Plus or 5152 that I could kind of give you guys those differences and show them to you by comparing it to one of those amps. And there really wasn't anything bad that I could say about that amp either. I really enjoyed it. It's just another take on the classic 5150 sound, tweaked just a little bit, gives us guitarists yet another option to really fine tune or tweak the tone that we are going after. So that was an awesome opportunity to me, and it will probably always hold a special place in my heart. So yeah, that is gonna do it for me today, guys. That was quite a long-winded video. I talked a lot more than I really expected to, so hopefully you guys didn't get bored to death. But I'm gonna link every single video, every single piece of gear that I talked about down below in the description for any of you guys who may have missed the videos and my reviews on said pieces of gear. If there are other things that I reviewed last year that you guys found really entertaining or that you enjoyed, or certain reviews that brought you to my channel, let me know what they are down in the comments. I'll meet you down there to chat about it. I'm always curious to see, you know, what video it was that brought somebody to my channel in the first place. So if you liked the video, hit the like button, consider subscribing so you don't miss anything else. I know this one wasn't a demo or a review, it was just kind of me yakking at you, but as always, I enjoy stirring up conversation in the guitar community, so that's why I hope to see you guys' comments down below. I'm gonna shut up now because I've been talking way too much. Kyle here again. We'll see you next time. Bye!